Hey, I want to thank all of you for attending this webinar on Kinetics Acoustical Doors. We're going to go through a few of the details on this. My name is Chris Underwood. I work in the home market, and I manage that market. And we're going to talk about high performance doors. Some of the things that the home market does is we get involved with building high performance wall surfaces, floors, and ceilings. And a lot of these surfaces are compromised due to weak links in those surfaces. Like in a wall, there's a lot of areas that allow sound to bleed through. Some of them can be as small as receptacles like outlets and switches. Could be speaker penetrations, can lights, and ventilation systems where ductwork comes through. One of the biggest weak links is the door passageways. So we want to try to seal these high performance surfaces as best as we can. People get kind of confused when it comes to doors when we call out different types of materials on the door. The head and jamb is one thing that people a lot of times don't understand. The head is basically the top of the door, and the jamb is the side of the door, which is the side of the jamb, and then there's door stops that are on the door. Now we use our door seals, our adjustable seals, as the door stop. And then the door pan would be this surface here, which could be different types of details on those surfaces, different wood species. Some of the things about our door, our SDC 49 door, which is one of our most popular doors, it has a steel acoustical inner core to it. As you can see in this photo, that steel core is finished with a variety of different types of wood species, which we veneer to the door and trim out and then pre-hang it. Those doors can weigh 9 to 10 pounds per square foot, depending on the surface mass, which all comes from the steel core. The steel core is designed to help block sound, kind of like a sound rated wall does. It's got surface mass to it and decoupling throughout the inner core of the door. So it's similar to the performance of a sound rated wall, like when we build mass to a wall and use a resilient isolator. The difference between our doors and our competition's doors, we offer a variety of different sizes. So we do a bunch of custom sizes. A lot of the competitors only build certain size doors. We can build little small doors to fit attic passages, crawl spaces. We've built doors as small as an 18 by 24 inch door, and we build doors all the way up to 47. We can build up to a 47 inch by 118 inch tall door. And these are also supplied as slabs or pre-hungs. As you can see, we even do double doors in that mix. Some of the custom things that we can do to the door, we can add moldings to it. Kinetics can do that depending on what's being required, or those moldings can be added by a local millwork company that can apply the doors. They have to actually adhere those moldings to the door because of the steel core. Our doors are offered in different types of wood species. Some of the standards are cherry, oak, maple. And those can also be offered as a paint grade, which is an MDF or a poplar skin and frame. Installation of these doors is pretty similar to basically a regular door. It gets attached to a wood frame, screwed in place and secured. The seals can be applied to hide those attachment points. Doors are supplied with adjustable seals, which the jam seals, those are all adjustable. So you can, once you install the door, those seals can be adjusted on site to fit tightly against the surface of the door, making sure it's sealed properly. A lot of times you might have to trim those seals to properly fit the openings. The thresholds are an option. Those come as a metal threshold. A lot of people don't like those in residential applications, so they'll make their own wood threshold. We got to have a hard surface below the door for the auto door bottom to drop down to. And we offer all different types of finishes on our seals and different types of seal options. So one of the difference when it comes to the door, the rough opening, we need a little bit bigger rough opening than a standard door. Standard doors, whether they're hollow core doors or solid wood core doors, are usually supplied with a 3/4 inch net thick jamb. Our doors are supplied with a 1-inch net jamb to be able to support the weight of the door at hinge locations. So usually it's about, if you were looking at the door size, if you're wanting a certain door size, you want to add about 2.5 inches to the height and width, and that would be roughly your rough opening. And we offer these doors in all different types of jamb depths. We can do jamb extensions to get into really deep jambs also. This illustration here, basically on the left, is what the adjustable seal looks like. From an end view, it has a screw that you can screw in and out to press tight against the door so you can get it properly sealed. The detail on the right is the auto door bottom. Our doors come with the bottom of the door already mortised, as you see in this detail here, and the seal is supplied with the door loose. This is an important form here. This form here is what is used for information on the door when it comes to quoting or for us to be able to build this door. We need all your information on the door. We need to know the type of door. Wood species is super important. One of the biggest things is jamb depth if it's a pre-hung. So you need to either mark pre-hung or slab. And then we have different options for the bearing hinges that are used on these doors. They come in different color options. Mortise sweep, I would just, usually you're going to mark it as a mortised door seal bottom. Surface mount is exposed and not really accepted too often for just due to aesthetic reasons. Door saddle, that can vary whether you want to do a door saddle. Like I said, those come in a aluminum and a lot of times aren't accepted on sites in residential applications. You have two different sizes here. One's for just a standard 2x4 wall. The other one's for a deeper jamb depth. This is the bottom portion of the form. We need to know the door swing. If it's a pre-hung, we need to know which direction the door is swinging. Hinge locations, that's only filled out if you're trying to like match where a hinge is currently at. So if you're doing an upgrade to an opening and you want to replace a solid wood core door with an acoustical door, the hinge locations are super important to us and the type of hinge. That way we can make sure it is matched to the old door locations. If it's a brand new acoustical door, then we'll set the hinges based on the height of the door, unless otherwise told. This is super important over here. That is where the knob hole is to be bored. So I need to know where the knob or latch handle is being placed, because earlier in the presentation there was that steel core pan where there was a notch out of one side of it. That is where the blocking gets placed to do the boring for the lock set. When it comes to shipping the doors are packaged, they're laid flat. Normally it's one door per crate. Sometimes we're able to put a couple doors stacked on each other, depending on the size of the jamb, but normally they're packed separately in a crate. Seal kit is laid on top of the door and shipped loose inside the crate with the door itself. So when you receive a door, you're going to get a pretty heavy crate that will have to be unloaded. So you need to prepare for that when it comes to a site. Lead times, that's one of the good things with our doors compared to a lot of our competition. Our lead times have been running about 6 weeks. Competition out there right now, I've heard all the way up to 18, 20 weeks for doors. But we've been able to manage a pretty quick turnaround time on ours. That's the end of this presentation. I'm glad all of you have been able to come to this and listen. We're going to take questions. So if you would like to ask questions about this door, we'll answer them at this time.
Okay, everybody. Hi, I'm Jason Ehrlich. I help out with Chris, and we got a question here. Chris, are the hinges, are they cam lift or not cam lift?
The doors that we build, we can do cam lift hinges. We do a variety actually of hinges. The standard hinge is a bearing hinge. So it's a ball bearing hinge, and we can do hidden hinges like sauce hinges, but cam lift hinges are hinges that we've done in the past if required.
We got another question about those door order forms. You can find those on the door website, or if you are one of our dealers or reps, you can get to that in the portal, and we'll make copies of this presentation available to those who need them. Next question is, how is the slab-only door reinforced in the existing frame?
In an existing frame, you'll have to make sure there's support behind the jamb itself to where you're able to run long fasteners into the rough opening frame, and make sure that the screw fasteners penetrate into the frame and is supported and shimmed properly behind that.
And it doesn't need to be bulked up anymore.
Not the frame itself, as long as the fasteners are running into some solid substrate behind the jamb and is properly shimmed, those fasteners can run straight into the rough opening material.
Another question, do we have any other ratings besides STC 36 and 49?
Not in the Kinetics doors. We do some other type of doors that are in the 50s, but they end up getting into a thicker door. Our doors are 1 3/4 inch thick. You have to get into over a 2-inch depth to get into a higher STC rating, and those higher STC rating doors are typically supplied with a metal frame, which in a lot of cases in homes is not acceptable because the only thing you can really do is paint them. And those are also offered in a fire rating. But when you get into doors like that, they end up becoming, the cost goes up quite a bit.
Do the heavier doors require an actuator arm?
It's an option. Some are. Depends on the need. When you have a 9-10 pound door, usually that's not needed unless you're wanting it to close. Cam lift hinges draw the door back, but the bearing hinges allow it to flow just fine and close like a typical door.
What can you tell us about cost,
Chris? Cost is basically the cost. It's all over the place depending on the wood species, size of door, and jamb depth. So best thing to do is, if you have a door option or if you have a door request, fill out the form, send it in, and we can work up a quote for you on the cost.
The owners are supplying their own knob and lock sets. Is there anything special they need to do so they don't create an acoustic hole in the door?
If there's a lock set they're wanting to use, you can send that over to us to evaluate. There are some lock sets where we do special mortising for it. Usually the lock sets is pretty heavy duty hardware that's being used. We normally don't ever supply lock sets. That's usually supplied by the customer, but you can send over information on it and we can review it to make sure that it's acceptable for this door.
This might be a tough question. Would they need wheelchair access where they can't have the saddles and some of the seals? They're wondering how much that STC would drop. Well, I don't know that I have an idea on that.
I do know seal doors that are, even though they're acoustical doors or even solid wood core doors, without a seal on the door, it loses a lot of performance because a very small gap can cause a lot of sound to pass around the surface.
Yeah, I've read tests where a 1% opening can cost as many as 10 to 15 STC points, which puts us right about where you're looking for a 30 plus. I think you're going to be right about in that range. But that's a complete guess on my part. Along the same lines, can we achieve the STC without a threshold with door bottoms? I mean, I think you only, with no door bottom, with no bottom seal, that would be a problem. But if it's got a hard seal that we can come.
It's got an auto door bottom seal that can drop down below, onto a hard surface and seal properly. It should be okay.
Well, and we have a resident consultant ask, it said an unsealed door is roughly STC 20, if that's helpful. Thank you, Michael.
And I can see that if there's a bunch of large gaps.
Yeah. There are instructions for contractors to properly mount and seal the doors. You can have an ISTC door, if it's not sealed properly, it won't work well. So what kind of instructions do we give contractors is the question.
We do have instructions on how to install this door. One of the biggest things is to make sure the rough opening is not too oversized. If it is, proper substrate filler is needed. The doors outside the door jamb, it should be filled and acoustically sealed to make sure no sound energy leaks around the outside of the jamb. Make sure the drywall is coming over to the edge of the jamb and sealing it up properly. So it's crucial that they make sure that outside the jamb between it and the rough opening is filled with substrate material and caulked and sealed.
I know from my own experience, when you shut that door, you can kind of feel those seals come in. Is there something more scientific than that, Chris, that they can do to make sure those seals are making good contact?
You can also, a lot of people look for light. If you put a bright light outside the door, you can look around the door and see if there's any light bleeding in around the seals. That's a good indicator that they're not properly sealed. If you see any light coming through, and then you can adjust and make sure that all goes away.
All right, looks like that takes care of the questions. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. And you'll be able to either request a copy of this or a video link will go out, I believe, by tomorrow.